Tonight on The Roast, Queensland updates its royal succession laws, Hollywood opposes gun regulation, and Danish television produces what's been called the most sexist show ever. Really? I had no idea Denmark aired the footy show. Firstly tonight, and in 2011, the United Kingdom updated its royal succession laws, allowing a firstborn female child to become heir to the throne. After which, everyone else in the Commonwealth agreed to the amendment so they'd recognise the same monarch. Everyone but Queensland's Newman government, who decided to enact its own laws saying exactly the same thing. 2 years later. Well, Queensland, you didn't come first, but you made it in the end. Here's a participation certificate. Although, you don't really deserve this because you didn't really participate. That's because the federal government wanted all states to refer their powers to a central piece of legislation. But no, Queensland had to try to stand out to Mother England all on its own, as it preferred to make the change itself. So what does all this mean? Well, before these changes, if a princess was born, she would become queen. Unless she had a little brother, who would become king even though he was younger, due to the crucial he has a penis rule, which does seem a little antiquated even for a 1,000-year-old monarchy. For more on the perspective of how this change is being received in the home of Australia's and Queensland's monarch, we'll turn to Jazz Twemlow live in the UK. Jazz, what's the reaction over in England to the new royal succession laws passed in Queensland?
Tom, everyone here has no idea what you're talking about. Which one's Queensland again?
Oh, come on, it's the pointy state. Now, Jazz, if we can find it... Oh, he's gone. Oh well, what if old pointy Queensland hadn't passed this law? We'll cross now to our reporter Mark Humphries, who's joining us from that parallel universe in the future. All right, Mark, bring me up to speed. What's happening in your universe?
Right, okay. William and Catherine had 2 children. The first grew up to become Her Majesty Millicent I, Queen of England, Queen of Australia, Queen of the Commonwealth. But the second child became Little Man Pete, full-time plaque unveiler, professional handshaker, and King of Queensland.
Okay, so Queensland doesn't recognise Millicent as its queen?
Hell no. She could be traipsing around movie world trying to board the Scooby-Doo spooky coaster, and people would say, hey, this Sheila pushed in, because this is the kingdom of King Pete. The king! And it's his favourite place for a royal visit. When the royal family heads to Canada, he's stuck carrying Queen Millicent's luggage. But down here among his subjects, he gets to cut around in board shorts and reopen Wet n Wild. Sure beats joining the British military or having the UK tabloids try to photograph your willy.
Now, what changes has Queensland made as a result of being the only state with a king?
Well, obviously we have our own currency, the peaty. And as for chess, well, while normally the Queen is the most powerful piece, here she has no power. She has to stand in the corner and has a mustache drawn on her face.
And what can the king do?
The king has lasers.
Oh, cool. And have they changed the name of Queensland to Kingsland?
Not quite. The Queensland government changed it to King's Landing. Campbell Newman III sure loves those Game of Thrones reruns.
Well, I gotta tell you, Mark, that sounds a lot better than this universe. Thanks very much.
No, wait, Tom, I didn't tell you that PT hunts us for sport!
Next up tonight, New York City's latest gun control measures have found some surprising opponents in Hollywood. Following the recent spate of mass shootings in the United States that followed the slightly less recent spate of mass shootings in the United States, New York's lawmakers voted to tighten gun legislation, something that angered certain filmmakers who claimed weapons are part of our history as a culture as humans. To tell stories, you need them. You see, because films don't tell stories about guns killing people, guns tell stories about guns killing people and kill people. Now, the main concern for these gun suppliers is the law that limits the number of bullets a clip can carry to just 10, meaning a movie scene like this would now look like this. One such gun supplier, Rick Washburn, said the costs of making fake guns instead of just using real ones would be too prohibitive.
From a financial standpoint, it's easier to take an existing firearm of some type and modify it to make it safe to use on movies.
And his brother and partner then added, you'd hate to lose a $100 million picture because there was a scene in it that required automatic weapons and we were unable to accommodate them. Yeah, with $100 million, there's just no way you could make a decent looking rubber gun when you've already made a CGI Winklevoss twin or a car that becomes a robot or a wave that destroys an entire city or this. Besides, a movie with a fake weapon would just never work. And anyway, gunplay's never even really been realistic in films. Nick Richardson, are audiences really looking for a more realistic gunfight?
Nope. None of the audience that just watched my film have anything to say about it.
You made a film?
Yeah, I'm a man of many talents. I went for realism with the gun battle. The film's called Real Gun Battle, starring Tom Selleck.
Oh, okay. And how did it go down?
Awful. Here are some of the comment cards left by the audience. There was way too much reloading. Why did the hero miss every time he fired? Why was it 7 hours long?
It was 7 hours long?
Yeah, like I said, Tom, realism. There were 2 scenes. The first one is a gunfight that lasts 3 seconds, and the second was a 6.5-hour hostage negotiation, followed by a gunfight that lasted 3 seconds.
Well, the hostage negotiation part sounds pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But apparently, the dialogue was shit, because you're a shit writer. But I did leave it open for a sequel, in which our hero has to take a shopping break to purchase more ammunition.
And will there be a happy ending?
No, the hero accidentally wounds himself while cleaning his gun. It's super authentic.
But this claim that you need real guns to make the story authentic is rubbish. Here at The Roast, you might be surprised to learn we're not a $100 million show. In fact, we're actually a low-budget, PG-rated satirical news program on the ABC. 2. And yet even we can do this. But you don't even need a fake gun. For instance, you can do it with your hand. And even one of these. Oh. And if New York's gun control measures aren't passed because of the film industry's critique, it might actually be the first time you could legitimately blame Hollywood for America's problem with gun violence. Clark Richards, actor and storyteller, joins us now from LA. Clark, is Hollywood worried that by blocking this gun control measure, they'll be responsible for whatever happens next?
Tom, Hollywood's job is to tell stories about Americans. The English makes films about England. Australians make films about Australia, and America makes films about guns.
Surely saving people's lives through gun control is more important than realistic firearms. Frankly, it's irresponsible.
Hollywood does their bit, Tom. Let me give you a hypothetical. A man walks into an LA coffee shop with an automatic weapon.
Which he was able to obtain because of lax gun control.
He then opens fire on all those wannabe screenwriters and desperate actors before turning the gun on himself and blowing his brains out all over that delicious creamy chocolate cake.
Well, that's not a hypothetical, Clark. That's a pretty likely scenario.
Oh, not at my coffee shop, Tom. Horrible cake, creamless. But without Hollywood's heartbreaking account of the matter to educate and warn people about the dangers of guns, people simply wouldn't know. People don't watch the news, they watch movies.
Yeah, but Clark, if there were no guns, there'd be no massacres, and then Hollywood wouldn't have to make these films.
Then what would we watch? Another Robin Williams as a priest movie? Nobody wants that. Although, Siri, make a note. Robin Williams as a priest with a vengeance and a gun.
Finally tonight, a television show has come under fire for degrading women, and surprisingly, it's not Celebrity Splash. No, it's Blackmon, created by Danish jazz musician Thomas Blackmon. Now, the show features naked women walking into a darkened studio to have their bodies judged by a bald guy and a Danish Matt Preston. Mr. Blackmon pitched the show to networks, arguing that the female body thirsts for words, the words of a man. So drink up, ladies, because with a claim like that, you're right to expect something special. A heartfelt homage to the female form like, "Now, I've always been an arse man. Would you mind turning around for a moment? Very animated nipples. How does that work for you?" Ah, music to a woman's self-esteem. And when the public dared to complain about a couple of blokes talking about a naked woman like she wasn't even there, Blackmon responded by saying, "Ungratefulness is the only thing that can really wear down the few geniuses who reside in our country. Remember, I am giving you something that you have never seen before." Big surprise that a trumpet player thinks a naked woman is something none of us have seen before. They never get the girls. We'll cross now to Rachel Corbett, who's actually just been on the show. Rach, I gotta say, I didn't think you had it in you.
Actually, it was pretty cool.
Oh, come on. Surely it's an all-time low for reality television.
To be honest, Tom, I think this might be the least degrading reality show on television. The women don't have to pretend to fall in love with farmers or eat cockroaches in the middle of the jungle or get screamed at while they're running on a treadmill. They just get to stand there in their rockin' bods in front of a couple of creeps and pity them.
Wow, that does actually sound pretty liberating.
It is, Tom. You should try it.
Well, I guess.
Yes, Tom. Embrace it. Embrace the fear.
I'm gonna do it, Rach. Woo! Embrace my naked form!
Oh my God! Why does it look so much older than the rest of you?
What? It's distinguished.
Distinguished? You guys, you've got to come and look at this.
Oh, it looks like a wet newspaper.
Why is it crying?
Stop looking at me, I'm hideous. Good night.
He has a soggy bottom. Well, the roast will be taking our scheduled week off next week in order to recuperate and catch that naked boy. But where will I get my news from, I hear you ask? Well, if you've been getting your news from us, that's the least of your concerns. In the meantime, we'll be showing our favourite episodes before we return on Monday, May 13th. King Petey,